So we're really lucky being twins. Well, at least I think we're lucky.
Yeah, I think we're lucky. Yeah, definitely.
It's also a bit of a weird one though, because we're kind of unique in the way that we are twins, but at the same time, we're not unique because there's a double.
Well, I guess like we are very similar in a lot of ways, and we're different in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, and I loved growing up with a twin, like, because you basically always have someone with you.
It's definitely been nice having someone along the journey with me as we go through life.
I guess one of the questions we always get asked is, are we identical?
Yeah, it's so funny because we still don't actually know to this day if we are identical or not.
No, and it sounds, I hate it because whenever someone asks me, I'm like, oh, I don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know?
Yeah.
But yeah, we just don't know if we're from the same egg or not.
And people just keep telling us to get a DNA test and find out, but like,
I'm quite happy not knowing.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to know, do we?
I don't think we're identical. I mean, I know we look similar, but not that similar.
Yeah.
And in our year group, there was like, we had loads of twins in our year group at school, didn't we? In primary.
Yeah, we did. I think it is the year with the most twins.
And I remember looking at the other twins and I remember thinking, they look exactly like each other. We don't look like that.
Yeah.
But I guess we probably actually did. It's just because we know each other so well that we thought we didn't look that similar.
Yeah, I imagine so, yeah.
But yeah, growing up with a twin, I just feel very, very lucky to always have someone there. And then it came to uni, and then that's when you left.
Yeah, I left you, didn't I? For 3 years.
Yeah. It was like, I guess it's such a big change from seeing you all of a sudden to then not seeing you at all.
Yeah, it was so weird, wasn't it? It didn't really feel right. But like, we'd always be talking to each other on like chat or FaceTime and things anyway.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite the same as seeing you in person.
Another thing that I remember when we were younger is like, if you ever got upset, I got upset.
It's like twin empathy. What is it?
Twin empathy?
So I think you have both twin empathy and twin empathy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you're upset, I automatically feel upset because I can see you being upset, especially when you were like primary school age.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I remember one time like you getting told off and then I'd be crying as well.
I think the thing I remember the most about, like, I guess it's like mistaken identity. But yeah, basically you and Ian got into trouble for something. I wasn't even there, but I was just, by association, I was guilty. And I remember like the teachers coming into our classroom and be like, right, these people stand up, Dougie, Sonny, and then their friend. I was like, oh, what's going on here? I thought we were going to get like a reward or something, but nope, it's the total opposite. We're getting punished.
Yeah, I remember that quite well. And to us, I don't know why I didn't say you weren't involved.
Yeah, like you or Ian could have. And I was like trying to say I was like not guilty, but obviously guilty by association again. Like, yeah.
But you are my twin, so we do everything together. So
not that.
You had to do detention with us, even though you weren't there doing it.
Obviously, people think twins are the same, but there are differences between us, as well as similarities, of course. So what do you think is the biggest difference?
See, I don't actually know. I don't think there is actually that much difference between us. Because it's bad. I can, if you were to ask me what's similar, I'd be able to like list a lot of things. But now you're asking me the differences. I'm like, oh, I don't really know. I guess one major difference is that you wear glasses.
Well, sometimes I wear contact lenses, but for the purpose of this podcast, I'm wearing glasses. I think one main difference, and I think this comes up in our work actually mostly, is our kind of like strengths in our skill set. So, for example, I think I'm quite good at keeping an eye on numbers and things. And you can sometimes get a bit too carried away with the creative side.
I thought you were going to say get carried away over spending money.
Well, yeah, that too, I suppose. Like, the amount of times you've brought a camera and then like I just see it come in through his ear, I was like, oh, okay, he's gone on another spending spree.
Yeah, boy.
But yeah, I think generally I'm quite good at keeping an eye on things overall, and I think you're really good at like coming up with new ideas specifically. I think that's where your strengths lie.
And I think your strength is being the translator of my ideas, because sometimes when I'm trying to explain it to you, I don't actually know how to explain it.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, because sometimes you say something and I have to think about it for a bit. It's like, oh, I think I get what you mean. Is it this? And then we have like a back and forth, don't we?
And then by the end of having a conversation with you, whereas before it's all muddled up and sort of there's nothing concrete, by the end of our conversation, we'll have something concrete in place and maybe even have the steps to make that happen or something.
Yeah, like the next steps to continue whatever it is we're talking about.
Yeah, which is really nice, to be honest, because sometimes I'm just in my head too much, and then to be able to like just be able to lash out loads of stuff to you.
Yeah, I think actually that's what's really good about being a twin as well, is that we can really bounce ideas off each other. And sometimes, like, when we get really excited about an idea, we can just, like, blurt it out. And even if that means that we interrupt someone, interrupt each other, I think that's okay, because we both understand that that's just how our brains work.
Yeah, I think so. Because, like, I would never talk to someone the way I talk to you.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I'm just being stupid and silly to you.
Actually, it reminds me of a video shoot we went on the other day, and you're like, I need to be in the frame so you can see what the framing would be like for an actual person in it before they arrived. So I was the stand-in, and like, you wouldn't ever say please or thank you, as I think if it was someone else you definitely would, but because it's me, like, I don't take it very seriously.
It's like, oh, what are you doing over there? Come here, stand there. Right, okay.
Yeah, it's more like jokey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, we definitely work well together, and we bounce off each other really well.
It made a big difference in our business, essentially, because we both play off each other so well.
So we don't really ever argue, do we? And I think that's just because, like, we're so used to being with each other and stuff, and I think we just know each other so well that we don't really need to argue. And I reckon you know when I'm upset, and I think I know you when you're getting upset.
Yeah, because I think if we were having a discussion and I can see you're getting annoyed, I would
just park it.
Do it at a better time.
So you just treat me like a child?
No, not really. It's just there's no point in having a conversation with someone if they're not feeling up to it at that point.
I know, yeah.
And I think you obviously do the same to me as well. I think you can tell when I'm upset.
But then again, I don't think we argue much either, because I think we kind of have the shared goals anyway, and I think our vision's kind of the same.
That's true. Yeah, like, I guess we do go through our goals quite often with each other to make sure we're on the same page as well.
So because we do have a lot of the same sort of goals and vision and stuff, it does make it quite fun, because there's two of us. So it does come into a competition sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially when we're working on goals made for impact, because I want to make sure I'm outperforming you.
Absolutely. So it just makes the business better at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I guess, we're in friendly competition with each other, so it pushes us to do more than what we maybe would do if we weren't in competition.
But even when we were younger, everything was a competition, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think even with our other siblings as well, everything was more of a competition. I remember even, like, we'd have to declare that it's not a race if we're having our food, because otherwise it's a race by default.
Oh yeah.
So whoever finishes first wins.
But you normally would have to say it just before the first person finished to, like,
Yes.
really wind them up.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, you'd think all that competition would also mean more, like, arguments and stuff. Because I bet when we were younger, there definitely was a lot of arguments.
Oh, I'm sure if you ask our mum and dad, they'd say we argued quite a lot as kids, probably.
Yeah, but now I think it's just more supportive. Like, whenever we're trying to challenge each other, it's more from a supportive viewpoint, or, like, we'll probably just be stupid and just say stuff that's maybe a bit mean, but it's in a good way.
Yeah.
And we know that.
Yeah, that's just being silly, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think being a twin is also quite unique as well, because I always feel like I've got someone there to support me, and, like, I sometimes assume you're going to help me before even asking. So sometimes I'll plan things, and then I'll be like, "Oh, Sonny, can you puppy sit on Saturday for me?"
Oh yeah, you've done that a lot recently, haven't you?
Because obviously there's nothing better than puppy sitting on a Saturday. What plans would you have on a Saturday?
Well, to be fair, Mika is very cute, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, being in an environment where we're working with each other and we're in competition, I think it's important that we also have that supportive nature come out as well, and I think we do that pretty well.
How?
Well, I think whenever you're struggling, I can tell that you're struggling, and, like, I think sometimes you don't actually say when you're struggling, you're just, like, being in your own head thinking too much, and I can tell when you're in that state, so I can go over to you and see, and, like, be like, what's happening, let's figure out what's going on in your brain and unscramble it. And I think you also did the same with me as well.
Yeah, that does ring true, actually. I do remember several times, and I've just been overwhelmed, and you can see that I'm overwhelmed, and you come and help.
And sometimes you overthink things as well, and obviously I do too.
There's only one thing that I worry about being a twin, is that
What's
people thinking that you are me when we're out in public and stuff.
It's because I'll embarrass you.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, there definitely has been times where people would notice me, especially as you do, like, a lot of the filming for Made for Impact. So when me and Matt were out kayaking one day, one of the ladies there was like, "Oh, I recognise you. You filmed me." I was like, "Oh, actually, no, that was my twin brother." And then they have to, like, explain that we're in the business together, because sometimes people don't actually know that we're in business together,
or that we're twins,
or
or that
we're
I have a twin. Yeah,
I think, yeah, especially if they don't actually see us next to each other.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, actually, it happened earlier today, didn't it? When you were just walking down and someone you recognised from volunteering came up to you and was like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, this is my twin." And like, "Oh, yeah, I can definitely tell, twins."
Yeah, it's always quite nice when you're meeting someone the first time and they didn't know you're the twin.
Yeah.
But then sometimes if people know that you have a twin, they just associate you two together. So sometimes people not knowing that you're a twin is kind of quite nice because then you're own person.
Yeah.
And as soon as they know you have a twin, then you're known as a twin. Like I think when we were younger, our mum and dad wouldn't say Sonny and Dougie, they would say twins.
Yeah, and I think even their friends as well would be like, "Oh, the twins." Something some people might not really think about being a twin is we have to do the twin check. So this is when we text each other first or call each other to make sure we're not wearing the same clothes, because that can sometimes be quite embarrassing. Because we're not little kids anymore. Like mum used to dress us up the same, didn't she?
Yeah, I remember one time we went to the harbour side once, and we met up and we were both wearing the same thing.
We didn't do the twin check.
We didn't do the twin check, and it was so annoying because like I remember walking down and I feel like everyone was staring at us like, "Oh my god, look at those twins! They're still wearing the same clothes."
Yeah,
I just felt like everyone was looking at us, and they probably weren't.
No, it's probably just us ourselves thinking about it too much. But yeah, it just feels weird when we're wearing the same. Like if it's just like the same colour shorts, that's fine. But if it's the shorts and the t-shirt are the same, it just feels a bit weird. And that actually almost happened for this podcast, actually, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was almost going to wear like a very similar colour top, but luckily we did the twin check just before.
Or sometimes we'll just take another t-shirt with us wherever we go so we can change.
Yeah, just something people don't think about, isn't it? Well, probably don't think about. I think sometimes when we are in meetings or something, we'd often speak at the same time and say the exact same thing. I think that sometimes really creeps people out, doesn't it?
I don't know how to reply to that.
It's just weird, isn't it? And like when we do it, I get really annoyed as well. I was like, oh, for God's sake, stop saying the same thing as me at the same time.
I think what's also quite funny is when we're like on the phone and we pass it to the other one and we're like, "Hello," it's like, and we sound the same. So like,
oh yeah,
have you just pretended to pass the phone to someone?
I think luckily when we worked with each other, we do often have the same sort of vision. Because like even with our branding, for example, which we talked about a bit in the last podcast, I think we had the same vision even for our branding, like even before we started it.
Oh, there is one thing though. I think you are quite stubborn sometimes.
What, when it comes to the actual design of things?
No, and like if you have a set idea or something, you can be quite stubborn. And I think back when we first started Studio Duo, the domain was taken, so we had to pay a bit extra for it.
Oh yeah, actually, I can be quite stubborn, and like it took you a lot of convincing to make me change my mind on that. What's that?
Took me a lot of persuading.
Yeah, what did I say?
Convincing.
Is that not the same thing?
Well, no, because I would persuade you to convince you. I wouldn't be convincing you.
Yeah, basically, I'd take a bit of convincing sometimes. Or is it the other way around?
I don't know now.
So hopefully then that's given people some insight on what it's like to be a twin and to work with a twin.
So yeah, I just feel really lucky to be a twin, and I do sometimes wonder where I'd be without having a twin, because obviously our business is there's quite a lot we do, and I wouldn't be able to do that on my own.
Yeah, I guess Made for Impacts wouldn't exist, would it, if we weren't twins?
So yeah, I feel very lucky to be a twin.
You do wind me up sometimes, but overall, yeah, would recommend being a twin.
Yes, if you're not a twin, we'd recommend it.
Yes.